Unbelievable. Someone should wake me up from this bad dream. This impotent, good-for-nothing man? What sort of silly joke is this? Jane used to believe love was enough, until the day she realized it couldn't pay rent or feed her. When she married Prosper, she was just 26, fresh from NYSC, full of hope. Prosper was kind, patient, and always smiling, but his dreams were bigger than his income. He worked as a junior architect in a small firm, earning just enough to survive. At first, it didn't bother her. They managed with what they had, sharing one plate of rice, laughing at their struggles, even turning candlelight dinners into jokes about Nipah romance. But after 2 years, the laughter started to fade. Bills grew faster than his promotions. Their landlord became a constant visitor, and each time she looked at her friends on Instagram, living soft, buying cars, flying abroad, something inside her started to ache. Prosper noticed the change before she said a word. She stopped talking about their future and started talking about what they lacked. He would come home to find her scrolling through her phone, eyes glued to other people's lives. "Jane, what's wrong again?" he'd ask. "Nothing," she'd reply, even though everything was wrong. The day things broke was simple but unforgettable. They were supposed to attend her friend's wedding in Abuja. Jane had nothing nice to wear, and when Prosper handed her 10,000 to manage, she snapped. "Prosper, I'm tired of managing," she shouted. "I can't keep pretending I'm happy living like this. I want more from life." He stood there, silent. His face fell, but he didn't argue. He just said softly, "So what do you want to do?" She looked at him for a long moment and whispered, "I want a different life." Money wasn't their only problem. They were also trying hard to conceive. They had an appointment with their doctor the next week. It was their 3rd visit in 2 months. Each time, they had come hoping for a different result, hoping the doctor would finally say something had changed. The day came, and when the nurse called their names, Prosper helped Jane up, and they quietly went into the consulting room. The doctor, a calm middle-aged man with kind eyes, smiled faintly. He flipped through the papers on his desk before looking up. "Mr. and Mrs. Prosper Uche," he began gently, "I've gone through all your test results. Physically, you're both okay, but there are a few concerns." Jane's heart thumped. "Concerns?" she asked softly. He nodded. "Nothing serious, but conception may take a little longer. You, Mrs. Prosper, are under a lot of stress, which affects your cycle. And Mr. Prosper," he turned to him, "your sperm count is slightly low. It's not permanent. With rest, nutrition, and patience, it can improve." There was a long silence. Prosper nodded slowly, staring at the floor. Jane swallowed hard, blinking fast to hold back tears. "So, it's not my fault?" she asked in a trembling voice. "No one is at fault," the doctor said kindly. "You just need time and each other." But those words didn't make her feel better. They only deepened the ache in her chest. On the way home, neither of them spoke. Prosper drove with one hand on the wheel and the other resting gently on her knee, but she didn't move. She just looked out the window, watching the city lights blare. That night, she lay awake long after Prosper had fallen asleep. She thought about all the things they didn't have, a home of their own, money to spare, and now, even a child. The emptiness inside her felt wider than ever. She loved him, she really did, but love was starting to feel like a small blanket in a storm. 2 months later, she packed her things and left. No fight, no dramatic scene. Just a quiet morning where she folded her clothes, placed her wedding ring on the table, and walked out. Prosper didn't stop her. Maybe he was too tired, or maybe he believed she'd come back. But she didn't. Her next chapter began when she met Daniel, a tall, confident man with a deep voice and a way of commanding attention without even trying. He was everything Prosper wasn't. Sharp dresser, ambitious, and already driving a white Mercedes. They met at a friend's business launch, and before the night ended, Daniel had offered to drop her home. That night, Jane lay awake smiling, replaying how he opened the car door for her, how he spoke with certainty, how he looked like someone whose life was in order. For the first time in a long while, she felt she was moving forward. Daniel's story wasn't ordinary. He had started from nothing, just like Prosper, but the difference was his hunger. He worked as a real estate agent in Abuja, selling plots and chasing clients with the kind of confidence that made people trust him. His big break came when a Lagos investor came looking for land in Maitama. Daniel wasn't even supposed to handle the deal, but he begged his boss for the chance and closed the sale within a week. The commission changed his life. From there, doors opened. He registered his own firm, bought a car, and built a name for himself. By the time he met Jane, he already had money, an office, and a reputation. He liked her immediately, her beauty, her composure, her class. To him, she looked like the kind of woman who could walk beside him in any room. To Jane, Daniel was proof that she had made the right choice leaving Prosper. Months passed. Daniel proposed, and Jane said yes without hesitation. The engagement was set to hold at a luxury hotel in Abuja, with her friends buzzing around her, helping her plan every detail. She wanted everything perfect, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever pitied her. The guest list was packed. Her ex-colleagues, old schoolmates, even people from her church were invited. She wanted the world to see that she had made it. But when her maid of honor asked if Prosper should be invited, just to show how far she had come, Jane laughed. "Why not?" she said. "Let him see what he lost." It sounded harmless at the time, but that single decision was about to rewrite her story completely. The morning of the engagement came with excitement. The hotel was already alive with music and laughter, and Jane could feel her heart beating fast as makeup artists moved around her. Her gown shimmered under the soft light, and every reflection in the mirror reminded her of how far she had come. Her friends fussed around, fixing her dress, adjusting her jewelry, teasing her about how fine she looked. "Jane, you better not cry today, oh," one said, laughing. She smiled, trying to hide how nervous she actually was. For her, this wasn't just an engagement. It was proof that her life had changed. Standing before the mirror, she whispered to herself, "You did it." All the hardship, the hunger, the shame, they were behind her now. Today was about joy, and she wanted the world to see it. Guests began arriving slowly. The hall glittered with gold decorations and soft perfume filled the air. Daniel was already greeting people, shaking hands with business associates and smiling at his uncles. Every now and then, he turned to look at Jane, and the way he smiled at her made her heart swell. Outside, security men were directing cars into the compound. Everyone was too busy enjoying the music to notice the quiet sound of new engines pulling up outside, sleek black cars moving in a small convoy. When the doors opened, heads turned. The man who stepped out looked familiar, though most people couldn't place him immediately. He was tall, well-dressed, holding a baby in each arm. Beside him walked a beautiful woman in a black gown, her face calm and warm, with someone following behind carrying baby things. Jane, who had been laughing with her friends, turned when she heard people murmuring, and her heart dropped. It took her a few seconds to process what she was seeing. Prosper, her ex-husband, the same man she had left with nothing but hope and debt, now stood at the entrance, holding twin babies, with a woman who looked like peace itself. He looked different, his beard neatly trimmed, his shoulders broader, his walk steady. He didn't have the restless look she remembered. Instead, he carried himself with quiet confidence, the kind that comes from contentment. The music faded a little as people turned to see who the new guests were. The MC smiled and announced playfully, "Ah, we have new VIPs in the house." Laughter followed, but Jane's body went cold. Daniel didn't notice at first. He just saw a man with a family walking in. But Jane knew. She knew every inch of that face. Prosper didn't cause any scene. He simply smiled, nodded at the ushers, and found a seat near the middle of the hall. One of the twins started to fuss, and his wife, Laura, took the child gently, humming softly while patting his back. The other twin tugged playfully at Prosper's collar, and he chuckled quietly. Jane couldn't look away. Something inside her twisted. She tried to focus on the ceremony, on Daniel's hand squeezing hers, but her mind was far gone. She remembered the nights she had begged Prosper to eat when he insisted she have the last portion. She remembered how he used to hold her and promise, "Things will get better." Now, he looked like things truly did get better, only without her. When Prosper stood up to greet the couple after the formal introductions, Jane's chest tightened. When they walked back to their seats, Jane's smile disappeared completely. She tried to join in the laughter and music again, but inside, she felt something heavy, not anger, not jealousy, something deeper. For the first time since she left him, she began to wonder if she had truly chosen happiness. That night, Jane couldn't sleep. The engagement was over, but her mind kept replaying Prosper's face, the way he looked so calm, so at peace. His wife's gentle smile, the twins' tiny hands, everything. Daniel was fast asleep beside her, his phone still in his hand from scrolling through pictures people had tagged them in. "You trended today," he had said proudly before dozing off. But Jane didn't care about pictures. She lay awake staring at the ceiling. It wasn't about missing Prosper. At least that's what she told herself. It was about how easily he seemed to have found happiness after all they went through. She had expected him to still be struggling. She had expected to feel pity. But instead, she felt small. In the following days, she tried to shake it off. She smiled for friends, replied messages, went out to dinner with Daniel. But something inside her had shifted. Daniel noticed. "Babe, what's wrong lately? You've been quiet," he asked one evening while they sat at a restaurant. "Nothing," she replied quickly. "Just tired." But he wasn't convinced. He reached across the table and held her hand. "Jane, if it's about the wedding, we can postpone it. I don't want you stressed." She forced a smile. "No, I'm fine." The truth was, she wasn't fine at all. She couldn't stop comparing. Prosper's calmness haunted her. His wife's peaceful eyes lingered in her mind. It made her start questioning everything, not about Daniel, but about herself. One Sunday afternoon, Jane went to the mall alone. She just wanted to clear her head. But fate had other plans. As she walked out of a store, she heard a familiar voice. "Jane!" She turned, and there he was again. Prosper. He looked surprised but not uncomfortable. He was carrying a shopping bag, and beside him was Laura, pushing a stroller with the twins sleeping inside. For a moment, none of them spoke. Then Laura smiled softly. "It's nice to see you again. The engagement was beautiful." Jane nodded, trying to steady her voice. "Thank you." Prosper added, "You looked happy. I'm really glad for you." Something about his tone, calm, genuine, made her chest ache. She smiled back weakly and said, "You too. You look good." They talked briefly, exchanged polite goodbyes, and walked away. But as Jane watched them leave, hand in hand, a strange loneliness settled deep inside her. That night, Jane stood by her window, watching the quiet street below. Daniel was on a white call in the sitting room. The house was beautiful, her ring sparkled, and her wedding dress was already halfway done. Still, she felt empty. She remembered the early mornings with Prosper, how he used to wake her with tea before work, even when they were broke. How he used to pray for them before leaving the house. She had wanted comfort, and now she had it, yet something about Daniel's love felt heavy. It was practical, serious, not tender. When Daniel entered the room, he hugged her from behind and said, "You know, I'm planning a surprise trip after the wedding. You'll love it." She smiled faintly. "That's nice." But he could sense the distance in her voice. He didn't press further, but in his heart, he knew something wasn't right. As the wedding drew closer, Daniel's mood began to change too. He became more focused, busier, sometimes quiet around her. One night, he asked her directly, "Jane, if there's something you're not telling me, please say it now. I'd rather hear the truth than pretend." She froze. "What do you mean?" He looked at her steadily. Since the engagement, you've not been the same. You laugh less. You think I don't notice. Jane swallowed hard, unsure what to say. It's just stress, she whispered. Daniel sighed, nodded slowly, and said, Okay. He turned and left the room, but from the doorway, he paused and added quietly, I've seen this before, the silence that comes before people walk away. When he closed the door, Jane sat on the bed, shaking. She didn't want to walk away this time, but for the first time in her life, she realized she didn't even know what she truly wanted anymore. Jane sat on the edge of the bed for what felt like hours, even though it was just 10 minutes, her fingers twisting the fabric of her nightgown. The quiet of the room pressed down on her, but it wasn't the quiet of peace. It was the quiet of doubt, of longing, of fear. Finally, she heard the soft click of Daniel's door opening again. He didn't say anything at first. He just sat beside her, a careful distance away, his eyes searching her face. Jane, he said gently, I'm not going anywhere, but I need you to be honest with me. Please. Her throat tightened. The memories she'd buried, the moments she'd tried to forget, all came rushing back. Prosper's smile in the morning light, the way he had held her when she cried over nothing and everything at the same time, the way he had loved her quietly while she chased a life she wasn't ready for. She began, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't mean for this to happen. I love you, Daniel. I really do. But, she paused, looking at him, seeing the patience and concern etched into his face. Seeing Prosper again. Prosper is my ex. The rich guy who came to our engagement party with his wife and twins. Seeing him with his family. It made me realize how much I've been chasing, how much I've been missing without even knowing it. Daniel stayed silent, letting her speak, letting her pull the weight off her chest. Jane took a shaky breath. When I left him, I thought I was making the right choice. I wanted more comfort, more security, more everything I felt like we didn't have. I thought love was enough with you, but now, I don't know. I feel like I left something precious behind, and no matter how much I have now, it doesn't fill that space. Daniel's hand found hers, squeezing gently. I get it. I can't pretend to understand everything you went through, but I hear you. I'm not here to replace anyone or compete with your past. I'm here because I want us to try, if you want that too. Tears slipped down Jane's cheeks. I do. I want us to try. But I'm scared, Daniel. I'm scared that my heart is still tangled up somewhere else. I don't want to hurt you, but I also don't know if I can ever fully let go of what I had with him. Daniel pulled her close, careful not to rush, letting her rest her head against his chest. We'll take it one day at a time. I don't want you to feel rushed or forced. We can figure this out together, Jane. But you need to promise me one thing. She looked up at him, her eyes red and glossy. Anything. Promise me you'll be honest with me from now on. No hiding. No pretending. If we're going to make this work, we need the truth, even when it hurts. Jane nodded, feeling a weight lift slightly. I promise. For the first time in weeks, the knot inside her loosened. She realized she didn't have all the answers yet, and maybe she never would. But in that quiet room, with Daniel holding her, she understood something vital. Love alone wasn't enough, but honesty, patience, and presence might be. Outside, the city lights of Abuja blinked lazily against the night sky. Inside, two hearts sat together in silence, fragile but willing to try, knowing the road ahead would be difficult, but at least they would walk it side by side. And for Jane, that was the first glimmer of hope she had felt in a very long time.